Welcome to the inaugural session of the Holy Donut Revival Hour. I'm your high priestess of nonsense, SJ, joined by my cohort brother in arms, AP Strange.
Hello, hello.
And you are, I believe, a doctor in kookonomy? I'm going to mess it up.
I do have a doctorate in kookonomy. I just say kook
Kookonomy.
studies because then I don't stumble over it. So that makes me a certified kook.
So you could go ahead and insult us and hate us and think we're all insane, and we will gladly accept that.
Also a master of mystical flapdoodle and a practicer of donut wizardry. So
That's right. That's right. We also do have somewhere a weirdo certification from the great Johnny L. Tenney, Michigan Gandalf.
yes, I have a certificate in weirdological studies.
That's what it is. And I've been joking for years that AP is my personal Tenny because, as you can tell, my memory is utter hot garbage. And both of them are so insanely smart that I feel like I have my own personal encyclopedia when AP is around. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
In fact, that kind of led to us joking that this show might become like the dollar store version of What's Up, Weirdo?
Yeah, because we got the smart one that's over here. Not that Jessica isn't smart. Jessica's very smart. And then you got the loudmouthy one in the corner, just screaming about things. So,
Yeah.
but I think everybody that has known us long enough, I think we've been friends for like about 7 years. 8, I don't know. It's been a minute.
Well, time isn't real, so
No, nothing is real, and everything is real here on the Holy Donut Revival Hour. That's the main premise of everything.
I think we first started talking around 2018.
That would make sense.
Right. So that's about 5 years.
Right. It seems like it would be longer than that, but I guess it's just because we know each other so well right now. We have one of those friendships that it started like the universe just sort of kind of nudged us. We hadn't really connected on a deep level at all, and one day I was at work and kept getting pings through the ether that I needed to check in, like, hey AP, what's going on? I can't get you out of my head today. And he was having a real bad day, and it just kind of went from there. And the more we admitted the weird stuff that we live with on a daily basis. See, I'm trying not to swear. I'm trying not to swear because if we swear too much, then YouTube will demonetize us.
Yeah. For all
So,
that money that we're currently making.
so I'm trying really hard, and I'm probably gonna have to beat myself a whole lot. I guess the F word, which is of course my favorite word because it's so versatile, is the one that you have to stay away from on YouTube. So
Fart? Is it fart?
no, you can say fart.
Okay.
Maybe, I think we'll find out. We'll find out. I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old boy. This is clearly a given also. So we got to know each other just being absurd because there's so many people on social media that take this stuff seriously, and the quote paranormal, unknown, weird crap, whatever you want to call it, does have a serious side to it, but it can make you feel insane if you lean too hard into that side for too long.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
So one of the things that AP and I do to kind of keep that balanced is we're ridiculous with it. And the thing is that the universe, or whatever this is that you believe that we're all experiencing, seems to enjoy some ridiculousness also.
Yeah. Right. I would say the
So,
cosmos kind of respond to, people like the term cosmic trickster. It's a pretty good one to use, but I think the phenomenon and the magic of it responds to silliness, and a lot of the time, and it's like the donut magic, or Job Cat is another example. Just a cat meme that gets people jobs is because it's charged with magic powers.
yeah, that totally started accidentally. For those of you that aren't familiar with Magical Job Cat, my sister lived with us for the better part of a year, and it was pure insanity having her cats and my cats together. And she has a cat named Jack, who is a cow cat. We all have cow cats. And Jack never, ever shuts the hell up. I mean, never. He's either sitting there with his pop looking like an idiot, or he's screaming. And made a meme out of the cat screaming because she was going on job interviews trying to find a job, and was like, please, you know, like those stupid like one like reblog get you, and we made this meme, and it's basically says, you've been blessed by the magical job cat, say the words hire me job cat to be blessed, blah 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 blah. So we did that and it worked. And then we made a second one that we considered it the activation meme, where it's like all rainbow and it's like, you have activated the quadruple job cat magic. Our friends thought it was funny. Our friends started using it. And I would say, in all, like, no BS, it's probably got a 90% success rate.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've tracked it before too. And sometimes it's difficult because of all of my qualifications, I've been given the ability to bestow the job cat magic on people. But it's really funny. Some people are really resistant to saying hire me job cat. I'm like, you have to actually say that though.
It will not work if you don't say the 3 words. Why? I don't know. It has to be activated by you. Number 1, and number 2 is you have to have that quadruple job cats.
Right. And every time I've done it for somebody, it works. But sometimes you're like, you keep telling them, you have to say, hire me job cat. And they go, well, okay. And I'm like, no, like type it up so I know you said it.
Yeah. And if they don't do it, it won't work.
Yeah.
So why? I don't know. It just, again, it's just utter nonsense, right? So
I think it's why humor is important generally, but also in a magical sense. Letting go of the inhibitions that would regularly stop you from saying something like hire me job cat, because it's very silly. Right. But if you can give yourself over to it and actually say that and type it, like that's kind of is opening yourself.
I agree.
To the power, you know, like, so
it's like surrendering to the universe, and it opens like a timeline for that potential to happen. So then you just start walking in that direction.
Right, because magic is a disruptor, right? Things have their ordinary flow, and if you're particularly adept at magic, you're kind of not changing the flow, but working with it or redirecting it a little to your benefit.
Right.
And jokes do the same thing. They interrupt the normal logical flow of things. It's a disruptor in the brain, and you have to stop and laugh about it, right? So
we've embraced the goblins. There are goblins that exist that plague us with various minor calamities when they are not acknowledged. They're a legit phenomenon that, again, started out as a joke. Yeah, so they exist, and it's very strange. And they have a resemblance to Shrek, because we were all in this Shrek thing when they occurred. I was Shrek cursed, is how this all began, actually. I obtained a terrifying object. I should have it with me, but I have it stored away for its own safety because it is so volatile. And Back Zagans really wants to get a hold of it. So
you can't have it though.
No. It is a Dybbuk box created by an actual ogre, and it has an imprisoned baby Shrek inside, gazing upon the cursed baby Shrek. You have in fact infected yourself with the Shrek curse.
Now that we have established that we're completely sane and credible.
Yes. AP is on the East Coast, and he is the keeper of the clown portal.
Yeah, I'm not doing so good with that.
Should we talk about the clown portal?
Hey, AP Strange here. Just a quick note. We have a discussion about clown synchronicities and reference the clown portal in the episode, and we failed to actually describe what that is. It's in a portal I attempted to close after a string of synchronicities resulting from an appearance on our Strange Skies podcast, where we talked about, among other things, the Phantom Clown
encounters of the early 1980s, which were reported on and documented by Lauren Coleman. So these were a series of events that took place in Boston, which is not that far from me. And so I went on a little journey. You can read about it on my blog. We're going to link that blog post. It's called Emanations from the Clown, and it details my journey to go into Franklin Park and find the dreaded clown portal, of which I managed to take a brick fragment. I hope nobody from the Parks Department in Boston is watching this, but I took a brick fragment and I mailed it to SJ, and SJ started having weird stuff happen. Even though, with my trusty rubber chicken in hand, I performed the clown ritual at the clown portal. What can I say? Maybe I didn't mean to close it after all. But this has just been a little bit of exposition for those who don't read my blog. And if you don't read it, perhaps you should.
Because guess what I found on the floor again?
The clown.
Today.
Yeah.
This is the clown portal. Yeah. So I bought this box at the thrift store. I'm going to contain the clown portal because I'm absolutely inundated with clowns right now. And clowns actually infiltrated my hidden brickyard. For those of you that know any of my other stuff that I'm into, I'm super obsessed with bricks. And there's a particular type of brick that I have researched extensively, and I'm trying to write a book about them. And I recently uncovered a story about a circus robbery where a truckload of clowns was held up after the circus, and there were literally clowns running through the brickyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I blame AP. He put clowns in my brickyard.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to go back in time to do that, and the time cops have been chasing me ever since. So I went to a yard sale. It was like a fundraising yard sale for the Boy Scouts of America, and I found this ring. As you can see, it's huge. I could put it on my thumb, and I still got like plenty of room.
Yeah.
I found this at a yard sale, like shortly after closing the clown portal and doing all that stuff. And it says this was sold at the circus, I guess. Tallest man in the world, Gilbert Reichert. So I had to look into it. I'm like, who was Gilbert Reichert? Like, I think I've heard of him before. He's like, a circus tall man. And I did some research on him, and I mean, he wasn't the tallest man in the world. I think that was probably fake. But that was one of the titles he went by. Prior to that, he was on a basketball team that performed with clown masks on.
Oh, Lord.
The team was like, I think it was the Detroit Clowns. And they actually ended up being stopped and questioned because they somewhat fit the description of people that were involved in an infamous robbery, like a bank truck robbery in Boston.
Okay, wait a minute. We had a robbery.
Yeah.
Okay, this is getting a little more interesting now.
I don't know if he was on the team at the time. So this team, they would wear like rubber clown masks, which I imagine had to be brutal playing basketball in.
Wet in your eyes.
But I don't know what's worse, if you do that or grease paint. Like, grease paint might actually be worse if you're running around sweating. I don't know. But they were wearing, like, because they were a bunch of dudes in a big van with masks to cover their identity. They were suspected for being the robbers of this armored truck that had a bunch of just cash from the bank. And this is a really famous robbery in the history of Boston, like the Boston area, because it went unsolved for a really long time. I don't think they ever even recovered all the money. So, yeah, pretty nutty stuff.
The House of David came on my radar because I was in a thrift store and I spotted this item. It's a resin replica of a famous piece of stone. When I first met my spouse all those years ago, he had an email, Dave of Daveland, and so I thought this House of David plaque for $1.50 was funny. Some information on the back. Found on July 21st, 1993 in northern Israel, this 9th century BC inscription bears the first reference to King David ever found outside of the Bible, called the Davidic Covenant. And thy house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. So I found that and brought it home, teeing about how we live in the house of David. Because we are the curious sort, we also Googled the House of David. And what we discovered is there is a rival cult called the House of David. All of these facts about the House of David, commune, are from Wikipedia. Photos are public domain. The House of David was started by a married couple, Benjamin and Mary Purnell, back in 1903. They had followed the teachings of another religious cult that was supposedly written by the sixth messenger of Revelation. And Mr. Purnell suddenly believed that he was in fact the seventh and last messenger. They wrote a book about this called The Church Ages, and apparently he was very good at this argument because before you knew it, their House of David colony had several hundred members. By 1907, they had 1,000 acres. They were pretty self-sufficient. They harvested their own food from a dozen orchards, cultivated grain, had their own cannery, a carpenter shop, a coach factory, a tailor shop, steam laundry, and even owned and operated their own electrical plant, which provided lighting to the community. They had 3 brass bands and 2 orchestras and a zoological garden. Of course, like most religious cults, not this one, there were accusations by the 1920s against Mr. Purnell by 13 young women who testified under oath in court that they were sexually abused while they were still minors. As soon as this became public knowledge, the Detroit Free Press turned on them and he was convicted. The trial was lengthy. There were over 300 witness testimonies, 1,500 pages of documentation. In the end, Mr. Purnell was convicted of fraud, but not on the sex abuse charges. He was sick with tuberculosis during his trial and died in 1927 before he could be sentenced. The press from the trial caused division in the group. His wife, Mary, remained with the core group members, and in 1930 she was given half of the land next to the original commune. She rebuilt and reorganized the new Israelite House of David, also known as Mary's City of David. As of 2017, they had a handful of members still who kept the premises open to the public. The second faction, the other half of the land, maintained the original commune and were called the Old House of David. They had about 350 members by 1935 and had dwindled down to about 150 by 1955. As of 2010, they have 3 surviving members. One of the very strange things that rose out of the House of David is Mr. Purnell was a sports enthusiast and believed that sports, particularly baseball, helped build physical and spiritual discipline. So by 1913, the Israelite House of David began to play competitive baseball, and they were a barnstorming touring baseball team that toured all around rural America until the 1950s, playing amateur and semi-pro teams in exhibition games. Their team members wore long hair and beards when they played. These teams, of course, played other teams like the Detroit Clowns. Now, can you imagine back in the day, you go to a baseball game and you see all of these dudes with long hair and beards playing a bunch of clowns in baseball? That's pretty crazy. But this story even has a deeper level. Back to the clown portal. That ring that AP was talking about, Mr. Tiny Reichert's ring, not only was Mr. Reichert a Detroit clown, at some point, he also played for the House of David. Now, I found that House of David relic a day after we recorded. This makes no sense to anybody. It's not an earth-shattering revelation, but this is an example of what we say when it seems like the universe is playing this game back. We talk about something, we play it back. It's just kind of bizarre that all of my best magic manifests around the thrift store.
Another thing too that I'm gonna, I guess, just roll with it because I tried to vet this guy. One thing that AP and I are, when we say, like, you know, you can go ahead and hate on us because we like Elvis, or hate on us because, you know, you think we're idiots, like, that's fine. But if you have a valid criticism with something that we're saying, or like we're just straight out wrong, like, please, you know, we invite you, or at least I invite you to engage me with that kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about here. If you just want to argue about, you know, the latest potato alien disclosure, then I'm not interested. We both sort of ended up here really bonding over the concept of synchronicity via Hellier. Everybody knows about Hellier by now. And I stumbled across a creator on YouTube the other day. The algorithm fed me something. Contact 2020s kind of was the first video that this creator made that I found, and then there was another one, and he came up with a term for kind of how he interprets the daily interactions with the world and sort of divines meaning from things. You and I do this as well. I do it with bricks and some other things. Like yesterday I was at an estate sale and I was walking up and there was a hidden brick in the path, and I instantly knew it was going to be incredible, and that wasn't a lie. You do it with playing cards. You see, like, messages from the cosmos or whatever. This guy came up with a term for it called constellating. I think he came up with it. Maybe he just, I don't know. Again, I'm probably screwing it up. I need my personal tenny, right? But the term constellating clicked in my head because it's like that gif of the guy where he's got the chart and like he's got his tinfoil hat, he's pointing at everything and it's a million places, but it is, you connect the dots, and it's in an individual way that only means something, I think, to the experiencer or, their immediate circle that knows them. It's nothing typically earth shattering, at least that I've noticed, for like the really strange things that happen to us or between the two of us. Really like that term constellating.
I like it. It works pretty well. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you think of constellations in the sky, and there's internet culture memes about it now where people just like make fun of the shape and say, oh yeah, that totally looks like an archer or a bear or whatever,
Right.
But no, it's kind of a good word for it, as long as you think of things as being disconnected in place and time, and to have them line up in a way such that there's significance and meaning there is pretty impressive. Because you almost have to imagine that the world kind of, all of time and reality had to kind of shift just to make these things line up just so that they end up being the way they are, the way they happen to align. I mean, the great example was, just a couple of weeks ago, I was going to Tim Banal's annual meetup, Paramania, and plans changed at the last minute too. So even if I had been able to tell you about it ahead of time, it wouldn't have worked. But I ended up driving 2.5 hours up to Portland, Maine to meet Tim and a bunch of other cool people at the Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine, the International Cryptozoology Museum. And that same day, you and Janet are going to Cliff Barrickman's Bigfoot Museum. So we're pretty much just simultaneously taking selfies with Bigfoot in a Bigfoot museum without having told either party that was the plan, which just lined up that way.
And if it just happened once, that would be funny, but we have 2 to 3 of those moments. That was a big one, but we have 2 to 3 of those moments at least weekly where we're twinning.
Oh, right.
Accidentally twinning.
You told me about the clowns on the property that you were looking at, and I didn't even put it together that I also had a story with clowns involved in like a robbery type situation until right now.
Yeah, and it's so specific, and that's it. It's like nobody else gives a crap about clowns. Like, but it's like, yeah, here we are. I don't know what the point is, other than the point is just to keep playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the clown thing started with us. I've been fascinated with clowns for a long time. I just think they're funny. I don't get scared by them like a lot of people do. It started to creep me out when I started having synchronicities around clowns, and but I think that started between you and I because you hated it, so I would just tease you by like sending you clown stuff,
and it would happen. Yeah, and it just like finally I embraced it. I was like, fine.
No.
I think the day I finally embraced it was the day I went to that random estate sale, and there were like 50 red skeleton clown paintings inside.
Yeah, see, that's weird. I've run into that before, only it was Emmett Kelly. There was one house I went to that just like a whole room full of Emmett Kelly paintings. I'm like, who in the world has this many paintings of the same thing, let alone a clown, That's kind of weird.
That was the strangest estate sale. They literally all signed, like some of them original, read, they're absolutely terrifying. Lining the halls.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm pretty sure I just slipped into the clown realm. And this is before you got into the, you know what I mean? So it's like time, there's no meaning. It doesn't matter. Things will connect 3-4 years down the road. You'll be like, oh, remember that thing we talked about 3 years ago? Guess what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
I sort of embraced it more when AP started talking about the sacred clown aspect of it. Because that's something that I very much vibe with, is like, if the world's burning down, you might as well crack a joke and sit there with your homies while it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we aim to do here. So if you're the very serious sort, maybe you can loosen up a little and hang out with us. Join our cult.
Yes.
We're the only cult that has donuts.
Correct.
We'll share donuts with you. We both kind of are practitioners of hilarious magic, as we kind of already discussed. So we're gonna like talk about our plans for the show. Do we have plans? I guess we're planning to have some guests, but that's not going to be the bulk of the show, right?
No. And we won't have guests every show. Clearly, we're not going to have any this first episode. It's not just going to be us yammering the whole time. We'll have some sort of little skits or other nonsense. We have 5 million ideas of ridiculousness we just throw back and forth and giggle about. We have some really talented people that have expressed interest in coming on and sharing their talents with our ridiculousness. So that's kind of surprising and slightly terrifying, but we welcome that.
It's basically going to be a grab bag. You're not going to know what you're going to get each month, but we're going to try to surprise you every time with good stuff. I can 100% guarantee that you'll maybe probably have synchronicities.
But, be warned. But that's what makes it so crazy when people do, get out, demon, all that hoaxy crap, because it's like, life is truly, there is enough true weird stuff out there to experience that you don't need to fake it. If you try to have a certain kind of experience, you might need to fake it. But if you're open and you're just interacting with the world and paying attention, like, your bricks or your clowns or your, whatever it is that you've noticed will notice you back. And there's no need to do the same tired routine. Like, okay, whatever you believe, you're God. And I think we're sort of in like a bubble of co-creation. Like, we can affect our bubble somewhat, but everybody else has their bubble, right? So we can't affect, that's kind of how magic works. Like, I can't be like, oh, I'm going to be president and do a ritual and it's going to work. When you do a magic, you have to have a possible pathway. There has to be a wiggle room. You can't just be like, I want a winning lottery ticket on Thursday. It's never going to happen. But if you're like, you know what? I'm broke. I'm a little short. I could use a little cash infusion, and you do a magic. You might get a rebate check in the mail that you forgot about. That's happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, a friend that you gave $100 to a year ago that you never expected to get back might slip it back to you. Or you might sell something on eBay that you've had listed for 6 months, or, you know what I mean? It's like you have to have parameters, but you have to give it a path. So I think that's the biggest problem with magic, is people try to get too controlling and they try to control other people's bubbles. And sovereignty is so important to all occult and all. You look at anything, and the greatest gift that God gave us, if you believe it, whatever your faith is free will and sovereignty. And it's like, if you bump up against someone else's free will, it's not gonna let it happen.
Right.
Like, the job cat thing. You can't go, hire me, job cat, and then not bother to look at the job classifieds and go on interviews.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to fall in your lap. You still have to try.
Right. You have to do the process. And so it's like, a lot of it is lazy magic, I think. And then also realizing, like, everybody else, whether they realize it consciously or not, is also, creating from their mind or their experience. And it's like, if whoever's doing the intentional movement, if there's a way for it to happen, why wouldn't it happen versus someone that's unconsciously just, flailing through life, has no idea what's happening and is just utterly lost. And you're just floating down the river versus like with a paddle is kind of how I see it. You can direct it a little bit. You're still going the same direction. And that's why magic can get so tricky, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of a Taoist perspective, and that's how I've always kind of used it, as like the Tao Te Ching and Lao Tzu would talk about that, and the concept of Wu Wei, just kind of can be kind of defined as go with the flow, but probably more accurately get out of your own way. Like that's really important. Um, but there is a flow to things, and there is a current, and sometimes it's just waiting, having the perspective to know when it's most advantageous to move versus stay still.
Right. Discernment.
Right, because not moving is, not acting is still action.
Correct.
You chose to not act.
It's a choice. Yeah.
So when you perform a magical act, I really do think that there's a general flow, there's a general current of ways things are gonna go, and it's like choosing to jump in the river at the right time to float to the next spot versus just going whole hog and trying to run down the river or something like that.
Right. But
Yeah.
like when you're a surfer, you're just waiting for the perfect wave. And
Right.
then you spot it and you're like, here it is. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I find fluid metaphors are the best because they've always seemed to more accurately represent what's going on.
So because we like experiments here, one of the weird things that I noticed, my day job, I work in automation solutions and I play with all kinds of bits of automation equipment and electrical motors. I noticed zoning out that the hum that having a room of these burning in reminded me very much of listening to the white noise on, a voice recorder or ghost box when you are blindfolded. You're sort of listening for sounds, your brain looking for things in the noise. And I decided it might be fun to do an experiment. Wiring in there is garbage, and it's all on like automatic lighting, and every time you go in and you turn on the lights in the morning, it'll automatically turn off for 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, it's just quirky. Lighting's just quirky. You get weird noises, like the alarm goes off at weird times, like we had a bird come in for like whatever. But there is some, especially when I'm alone, and I pretty much, my joke was like, everywhere I've worked is ever haunted. And it's like, well, yeah, well, maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're just a magnet for that stuff. And I was working alone for a week in the office, and like the security alarm just kept triggering. Like there was somebody downstairs, and I'd hear it beep, and if there's nobody there, I could see on the cameras. And it's probably just all the electricity and the EMF in the air from running this stuff all the time that, makes things a little strange there. And it's always sort of electrical stuff that does go wacky. So I thought maybe the environment itself and the fact that, I do get some minor weird crap happen could lead to some interesting things. So I'm telling AP about what I'm going to do. And of course, he figures out that somebody's already done this. So,
well, sort of.
Here is what we are calling our first exploration into the ghost in the machine. We're trying to talk to some motors.
Greetings, cult members and the curious. It's SJ. I am at my day job. I work in automation solutions. Basically, I play with parts of electrical systems, motors, and actuators and things like that. I love my day job. I used to hate my day job. It used to be insurance and I hated it. If you hate your day job, get a new job that you love. Seriously, life's too short. Anyway, one of the things that I've been working on is I have 700 and some motors that need to have a burn-in time, which is be run for 72 hours. And I was talking with AP about the fact that these motors emit a hum, and it reminds me a lot of the sort of white noise that people use in a ghost box and similar things to try to talk to spirits and the other side. I have, some equipment, and I'm curious to see if the motors will talk to us. Welcome to the first installment of The Ghost in the Machine. what I'm going to do. So we're going to record. I'm going to see if the motors have anything to say to us. Start the recording here. This is like a $20 freaking electronic voice recorder. It was hilarious. John Tenney and I were cracking up at Belvoir because all the talent had these expensive $3,000 ones, and my freaking ghetto one was the only one that was continuing to work. AP will fill everybody in. Somebody else, of course, already did a project like this once, but I don't think anybody's done this with 24-volt motors.
Just cutting in here for a moment to talk for a second, because when SJ told me that they were planning on doing some Ghost in the Machine, talking to some machines and engines at the shop, it reminded me of the Shaver Mysteries. That's where that all began. He was working at a factory doing a welding stuff, you know, and the hum of the machines, he started hearing voices and realized he was telepathically hearing the thoughts of his coworkers around him, which eventually culminated in him writing to Amazing Stories magazine and other sci-fi publications, working with Raymond Palmer, and producing a book called I Remember Lemuria. This eventually became known as the Shaver Mysteries. They all originated with Richard Sharp Shaver and his basically channeled messages and memories of a past life. It ties into Hollow Earth stuff. It ties into the birth of the flying saucer era. It ties into conspiracy theories. It obviously touches on racial memories stuff that gets mixed up with the root races and theosophy. So it's a kind of central text to all of the weird shit that we think about and talk about. And all just kind of began with a guy working in a machine shop and hearing voices. So interesting stuff. I will note about his name, Richard Sharp Shaver, that he in the foreword to I Remember Lemuria makes a point about saying that he's really tired of people making fun of his name and making puns based on the Sharp Shaver thing. So he wanted it known that his name is actually Mouton Mion, and he was that's his former Lemurian name. So that's a big rabbit hole. I don't have all the knowledge or time or ability to explain it all, but this is a pretty comprehensive book here. It's David Hatcher Childress has kind of collected a bunch of the Shaver Mystery stuff. It's a crazy rabbit hole, so this has been a little weird book library, weird library report from AP Strange.
I want to make one thing clear here, because we do talk a lot of BS and do a lot of parody in this show. When AP or I show you a book or discuss a topic, that does not mean we necessarily co-opt the ideas in that book or the ideas of the author of that book. In this example, Shaver, nor the person who collected all of the articles Shaver wrote, have ideologies that either of us agree with. So consider this a report and not a co-opting of the ideas. They both had extremely problematic racial ideas, amongst other things. Shaver spent quite a bit of time in an insane asylum. So I actually really hate that this was Shaver's idea, because Shaver was such a white supremacist nut job. But it just goes to show you, I guess, there's no original idea, right? So I'm not endorsing Shaver or his batshit horrible Nazi ideas. None of it. It's just an unfortunate coincidence. So we're going to call this round one. We have a 72-hour window that's going to happen soon. These are just finishing up, so this will be about 8 hours. Typically I set an intention. I would like to speak with whoever would like to speak with us is welcome to contact us. For this first session, I would like to hear from the motors themselves, maybe. Let's get real weird. What do you have to say, motors? Motors, do you have any messages for our watchers and listeners today? Is there, in fact, a ghost in the machine? How do you feel about AI? Anything like that you want to tell us about? leave this little recorder going. I look forward to hearing what might contact us through the white noise. The motors. These are brushed motors. So there are magnets inside that are forcing things to move around. So I figure between the magnetism, the EMF being kicked out, this would be a fun experiment. What we get? I went in to check on the motors. I go in to check on them about every, at least 4 to 8 hours to make sure that nothing's burning up in there. And this thing stopped recording after an hour and 5 minutes. And I had just been like, yeah, it's serves me right. But then to see, this shit has a weird sense of humor. It's like, oh, you're bragging that your recorder's the best one? So funny. I'm gonna pull all of the files off of here so it has like no reason, like if it's full or something, and we'll try again. It dawned on me when I came up this morning to set up the second set that some of you might be a little curious about how to set up a rig like this. It's not complicated at all. You have a power supply, which we have here. It's set for 24 volts. Goes to the wall. You have a positive and a negative. And you have a clip that connects the positive and the negative, one of each, to the motors. Polarity doesn't really matter on these motors. It'll run either way, it just switches the direction the shaft spins. When you talk about motors, a lot of things sound really dirty. Shafts, male and female, all of these things. Anyway, and then how I started is I set the power supply at 24 volts. I've got one of the phases set up here. The other one is not connected yet. And I'll slowly connect it and connect them all up and start them running. And the magnets inside will move, and that creates the hum. Another thing that's important to set up like this, you never want to touch positive and negative together. You'll get a spark and can blow up your motor and get a nasty shock.
The hum itself, when you're, quote, live in there, it's kind of relaxing. It's a little hypnotic, I think. And like you talked about with Shaver, he thought he was hearing the voices and all of that stuff. But if you think about this, okay, he worked in the machine shop in 1932. He probably had some pretty big time tinnitus from working in there because they didn't have earplugs or whatever. So automatically he's gonna, hear a little bit more. And he was mentally ill. He spent years in an insane asylum 2 years later. And so it was like, I think it was truly the combination of, the white noise, because he went way, way in with this stuff. Did you have a chance to listen to any of it? A little bit?
For whatever reason, the files wouldn't play on either my phone or my computer. I don't really know what was going on.
That's incredible.
Only one of them did. The first one did. The other one's nothing. It just wouldn't do anything.
Okay, so yeah, see, here we go. So we have some minor, crap, but you can kind of hear the whine. I hope you could kind of, it's like, it kind of whines a little bit, and it's like, okay, so if you have some hearing loss, you spend a lot of time alone in a machine shop, your head's a little scattered because you're dealing with some mental illness issues, like you would absolutely think this shit's talking to you.
Well, and I think also with Shaver, because he was talking about using like welding equipment. And it was the kind of thing where you'd have to weld some rivets onto something and like spin the gun out of the way, and you'd have to like duck under something and do another part and then duck under something else. So, you get in a kind of a hypnotic rhythm with that. I think anybody that's ever worked in a factory before probably can relate.
Right.
I think that turned into kind of an auto hypnosis for him. Like he almost kind of got into a trance state just from having to do that over and over again. But I mean, it kind of began with he thought he could hear his coworkers' thoughts, and he thought he could read their minds and stuff like that. And then he started hearing voice transmissions from the inner Earth, and remembering stuff that happened in Lemuria thousands of years ago, all this other stuff, and it turned into a whole mythology. So
I love the fact that he didn't want to, have the name Richard Sharp Shaver anymore, but he came up with like racist ass Asian sound, like come on, like that wasn't any better, dude. Like this guy is so problematic, it's unreal. And I was like, God dang it, why does this guy have to have the same idea as me? And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like you've had a lot of ideas in your life, like
Right.
you know.
Well, yeah, I
But
mean,
then
it is kind of funny. He's like, I'm not actually Richard Sharp Shaver. I'm Mouton Mion of Subathlon.
like, come on. How, so like, we're going into this laughing about it, and yet, there's something there. When you listen.
Yep.
Listen. All right. Just everybody use some caution with the next few moments of this show, because this might be a demonic infestation. We're not really sure what's happening here. I'm sorry. I got some in my eye. And so we did hear a couple of really interesting things though, but for your own protection, I would highly recommend that you protect your thoughts, because we don't want the Darrow to know.
So we're going to call this round one. We have a 72-hour window that's going to happen soon. These are just finishing up, so this will be about 8 hours.
That's fascinating. What do you hear? What do you hear, AP? Is that a weird Goetia ritual going on in the background? Is that what this is?
I thought I heard something about donuts, but I might also just be hungry.
Oh, could be. Could be.
Donuts. Eat more donuts. I'd
Forbidden
like to know what our
disclosure.
viewers think.
Please protect yourself. We don't know if demonic possession via 24-volt motor can be passed through other electronic medium. It could be like a virus.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that's just our disclaimer, is we assume no responsibility for that. If you failed to take the precautions, the simple precautions of wearing a tinfoil hat.
Correct.
Like, it's a tried and true mechanism.
Speaking of tinfoil hats, this has become a tool that has become increasingly important in UFO disclosure.
Right. Well, I mean, it's because aluminum foil is actually a metamaterial. Like, if you ever look at the box, the aluminum foil box, it'll say trusted since 1947. Where do you think it came from?
Oh crap. Found the aliens in the cave and crashed Mexican Congress and revealed the horrifying truth.
Yeah.
And they looked like baked potatoes.
Well, and what do you wrap a baked potato in if you're gonna? Yeah, right. So
It's all there. The movie Signs prepared us for this. It told us everything we needed to know.
Joaquin Phoenix with a tinfoil hat on is, was kind of a premonition of sorts.
Oh no! Oh, my brain!
Oh, you're vulnerable now.
I know. Okay, but I do keep water in my holy chalice, bearing the king at all times within arm's length, just in case any of the aliens that are spying on us through electronic means need to be extinguished.
Yeah, right.
That's crucial information. Know the truth. What other important disclosure information do we have to reveal? It seems
Uh,
so much lately.
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I guess we could announce by the time this comes out, we can announce our new home for our cult. It is at donutrevival.com, where we will have all of the healing and nonsense that you need in your life. And we will post all of this research, this hard hitting potatomancy
Hmm.
goes all the way down. Our friend Mortalis taught us all about potatomancy. Everything goes back to potatoes.
Yeah,
But are almost as important as donuts.
right. And in fact, if you go to the Holy Donut in Portland, Maine, their donuts are based on potatoes, made with a potato base.
Don't sue us a holy donut. We love you.
Embrace the power of the Holy Donut. May the blessings of the Holy Donut be upon you.
Forever,
Amen.
ever. Amen. This is a little crazy. A little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, people nowadays make us old school tinfoil hat nuts look ridiculous by comparison. You know, like they make us all look bad. Is what they do. I would like to note though, with the potato aliens, the
Yes.
mummified aliens that are allegedly 1,000 years old. That's another long running thing
Like a
between
mummy?
you and I as mummies.
Yeah, the mummy thing yeah, obviously we're both into Egypt stuff. I'm really into Egypt stuff. A few years ago, we wrote a story about fighting mummies, and we have been inundated with mummies ever since.
Yeah, mummies just keep coming. So
Yeah. So if you got mummies, potatoes, donuts, Shreks.
clowns,
And
bricks. Yeah.
Elvis is a subject we'll have to get into later because Elvis is so much magic. Elvis is like, he's like this Santa Claus. Like everybody knows it's Elvis.
Yeah.
You say Elvis, and everybody knows exactly who you're talking about. There might be 50 other dudes named Elvis, but everybody knows Elvis.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to do like maybe a January Elvis episode.
Yeah.
For his birthday.
Absolutely. We'll do a full episode to the king. And we'll have our friend Eli come talk to us. He has a really fascinating theory about how Elvis is like one of the
God of prosperity or something like
the random god of prosperity. That's another experiment that I've been doing is you can actually page Elvis at the thrift store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eli also plays in the Chaos Stream like we do, and was in Vegas or a casino once, and somebody mentioned Elvis, and he said, "In the name of Fat Elvis, I bestow blessings upon you," or whatever, and did a and like pulled, oh my God, and pulled. They really want my brain to get fried. He did a and pulled the arm and won like $500. So I was like, okay, I'm doing it at the thrift store. So I go there and I'm like, please, in the name of holy fat Elvis. There's like a whole thing that it's like there's magic words. And if you utter them before you go in the thrift store, you will find Elvis in the thrift store. And CDs don't count. That's way too easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I went in there and bam, there was a clock. And then there was a second clock, bam. And it was a Salvador Dali clock. And Dali-esque, I should say, like a melted clock, which Dave is into, I'm into, and I'm like, I found Elvis and I found this other clock. And I get home and AP Strange has this same clock on his bookshelf right above an Uri Geller book.
Yeah, which is really funny because I had been harassing Uri Geller, asking him about Elvis. Because I had this blog post because there was a blue moon around my birthday, and I included as a description the Dali deck tarot card for the moon, and Uri Geller posted this whole video about Dali and how he knew Dali, and he has all this stuff at his museum. So I commented on it, and I finally got a response from Mr. Geller about the synchronicity there. But apparently the synchronicity was bigger than I thought, because he found the melting clock. I have the same melting clock, and it's on a stack of paperbacks on the top shelf of my bookcase, which also has the book Uri by Andrea Poharic. It has a book about Elvis like tucked right next to it. You can't see in the photo that I sent. And it also has Whitley Strieber books there, which is another thing, because Uri Geller had just been posting about the pictures that Whitley Strieber was sending him of these alien these aliens that he said look exactly like the ones he saw.
I lost all respect for Whitley Strieber when he was trying to buy the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what to do with Strieber. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
still enjoy the books, especially the older ones, and it's just like, but it's like everything in this field, like a lot of it's bogus, a lot of it's fake, some of it's straight horrible stuff. But you kind of have to be on the same level as a person that enjoys like cult cinema and loves like exploitation films and stuff. It's like, yeah, so you're gonna find stuff that's absolutely terrible, but it's part of like getting an overall eagle eye view of the culture,
Right.
and you can't. It's kind of like we're talking about Richard Shaver earlier. Like a lot of these ideas are problematic and also ended up being kind of rolled into ufology, into conspiracy culture, into occultism in some respects. But they're inextricable from it. Like they're fundamental. Like you can't pull that out, or you can't just ignore it and pretend that the Shaver mysteries weren't there, and then say, guys, there's underground bases where aliens live. Like, nope, that's just Shaver mystery stuff, man. That goes back to the Shaver. If you didn't ignore all that stuff, then you'd know that, right?
Right.
So it's all part of like one big tapestry, and you kind of. So I mean, really, when people want to tell you, oh well, that's fake, this is fake, like I don't care. I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
Because if you can recognize that, then you have to recognize that the stuff that's currently going on now has a lot of lies and fakery going on with it.
Oh, now you're exposed.
Oh, it's okay, because I have the magic of Ishtar power with me.
This book is incredible.
It really is. So this was my recent find. Actually, you know what? We're not really doing disclosure stuff,
Yeah,
right?
we're okay. We're safe now. We have our mystical.
But it has my little Discordian priest.
Ooh, that's good. Mine has a pharaoh mask on it. Our powers it's increased. Now we can talk about Ishtar power.
The magic of new Ishtar power. Yeah, so this is Al G. Manning, who ran an ESP research center in the 70s. And it still exists in some form today. It moved from its original location, I think, it's in Colorado now. But basically, there's different altar symbols that you can draw. And you're asking Ishtar to help you with any little thing in your life. And I do mean little. There is no job too small for Ishtar. So, the book is full of testimonials of people that have used the power of Ishtar to solve their problems. Like this one from GW, a widow in her early 70s living alone. I pulled a muscle in my right thumb yesterday, and it was very painful. This morning I could barely move my thumb, and it looked like it would be a very painful day just doing the bare survival necessities. I went to my altar and went through the touching of the 8 power points of the Ishtar power star, asking for help at each one. My thumb was healed immediately. It turned out to be a glorious day with many extra happy accomplishments.
Incredible. All praise Ishtar.
Here's another one from CA, who had been had a special chance to try this out. For several days, the TV had been blurred and the audio very weak. On last Monday, it got so bad you couldn't enjoy the picture at all. I tried to adjust the vertical hold on the back, and the knob on the TV came off on my hand. I placed both hands over to my Ishtar medallion, explained the problem, and asked him to fix the TV. He did! Within seconds, the picture cleared up. The set has never operated better, either audio or video, and the vertical hold knob is still in my desk drawer. Ishtar fixed my TV!
Okay, wait a minute. How is it that I have things that break stuff around here, and yet I should have been summoning Ishtar because he could be fixing stuff?
Right. Yeah, and Ishtar is a he in this book. He's an invisible entity that actually will appear and help you out. And it seems like mostly with very small problems. When you go around the Ishtar Power Star, you have Isis, Nergal, Ra, Ishtar, Osiris, Marduk, Thoth, and Bast. So,
Okay, well, I already know most of those guys. Like,
yeah,
I got Bast
those
right
guys.
here, like...
Right. Yeah, that's
Ishtar.
just a normal crew.
Why am I not... What is going on? What did I do to piss off Ishtar?
Yeah, there's just you know, you need the star. I think that's the start.
Okay.
So I'll have to send you a photocopy so that you can have the star and then you can give it a try. So this will be an ongoing investigation, probably, you know, into the magic powers of Ishtar.
Again, I went down a big rabbit hole with the Queen of Everything. One of her names is Asherah.
Right.
It's basically the same entity, just the female aspect of it.
Well, right. I mean, Ishtar is usually considered to be female in the ancient mythology. But these things get really kind of weird and sticky. Like, I'm trying to look into it now, and you always find, basically, when you're going back to like ancient Babylon, Mesopotamia, Akkadian Empire, Ugaritic cuneiform texts, like there's a lot of discussion about what they were talking about and what things represented, and
Right.
I mean, the real answer is nobody knows for sure right now.
Totally.
There is kind of consensus with a lot of it, but it's difficult. It's really difficult to look into these ancient mythological figures. Yeah, and I'm like incredibly impressed with the lack of F-bombs.
I tried so hard, dude.
I mean, that's the least amount of F-bombs ever.
You're like, that's the not filthiest your mouth has ever been the entire time I've known you. I've just pretended I was at my old work.
Yeah, there you
Old lady.
Yeah.